Hey Latina, this is Rebecca Lane, your PCP instructor, and I just wanted to talk through your Ignite slides. Thanks for submitting this. Nice start. Um, all right, so we're going to look through this first. That is not what I'm looking for. Here we go. Okay, so one of the things I want you to think about, I love that you were using these nice large images. That's a really good start, Latina. So now go ahead and make sure that you don't have competition between your background and your text. Really work to play with your font size. Try to make the font feel intentional. So you see how this feels less intentional than this does? And the reason this is working is because you're playing along this horizon of the image. This one, you don't really have that image to latch onto, so you want to make sure that you're using some of the negative space or something like that. You've created a really beautiful pattern with these two black and white images, and now you're breaking it by using this kind of random feeling picture of a dorm. So make sure that you have some sort of consistency with the types of images that you're choosing. What I'm seeing you use is a combination of like black and white artsy kind of regular old photograph and then these corporate looking stock photography pictures. And those are all three really different styles of photography. You want to try to be consistent in the style of photography that you choose. This is interesting, but see all this space? You've got some really nice space here that you could use if you just used larger text. Also, one of the things that you want to think about is creating a pattern with the font that you're choosing. So you've got this one font here, and now I'm expecting to see it the entire time. But then you change your font, and then this is not your font at all, and then you're changing the font again. So we want to make sure that we've got some level of consistency. Also make sure that your picture is completely reflecting what you're trying to say here. So this is a determined face, but this last picture you've got also a determined face. So physical test, maybe you're showing this because the guy's really sweaty, or maybe he just got out of a swimming pool, I don't know. But two faces in a row, it feels a little repetitive, so careful about that. This is interesting that you've got these slides. I'm wondering if you weren't able to finish your slideshow. It looks like you turned in what you had. So this is a good start. Careful about the stock photography. It's really obvious. Careful about repeating images. So let's go to your slideshow and see how you can play with some of this. So I don't have the same fonts as you've got, so then that's okay. I like how you've got this story. It looks like this image is really going to play with what you want it to play with. But now play with text size. So that's a little too big. What happens if I make it this big? What happens if I make it a little smaller? So a focus on try to play with what you have. So this guy seems to be the guy who's saying, I don't know what to do with my life. So how can we set this off? So one option is to put something behind it, right? So we can do a color fill. Now, doing a color fill, one of the benefits of a color fill is it helps you choose your color scheme to begin with. So you've got that really cool bright blue. I'm going to try to pick a blue that seems like that bright blue that you've shown earlier. And you've got some options. What can we do with this? Maybe we stretch it across the entire image and we give the entire image a blue tint. That could be interesting. We could send it backwards. That can pop. We can adjust the opacity so that it is even more transparent. So things that you can do, things you can play with. But you see how that lets this shine. It really sets that off, whereas it wasn't being set off before. You could do the same thing with this. Let's see, we can copy. What happens if I add this to both of these? So what adding this to both of these? Oops, undo. No. There we go. What happens by adding this to both of these is I've created a pattern, right? We've created a color scheme. And so that's helping. So what happens if we add that to this one? This image is a placeholder. Okay, well, I think you know what I mean. So we've created a pattern. Try to create this pattern. Try to repeat this pattern every time. Okay, so maybe that works. Maybe it doesn't work. And really try to use that negative space. Really try to use that negative space. Now you see how this kind of, you've changed fonts here. So I know that I don't have the right font in mine, but you still changed fonts between this and this. And remember, we're trying to create a pattern. So here we want to try to fill that negative space again. So even when I layer things on top, they start to feel more intentional. You could even fill the entire slide, right? So you've got so many options. Maybe you put this over the entire guy. Maybe you adjust the opacity here. We've got a lot of options. And you can adjust the opacity of a single word too. So you can fade in some words, you can fade out some words. You've got a lot of options. Make sure that this is repeating exactly what you want it to repeat. So I think we talked about this already. One of the things I'm seeing in your outline, you adjusted it and you made some really excellent adjustments. I'm really proud of you for that. But you're repeating a military-style boot camp over and over and over and over. If you say that in those exact words as many times as I've seen it repeated here, especially in a 5-minute presentation, you're going to kind of sound like a broken record. So look for some other ways to say this. You've got experience, discipline, and leadership skills. How does a boot camp give us experience? So you really want to flesh this out. And it doesn't look like you fleshed this out in your outline either. What does it mean to be on the right track? How does a military style boot camp, like an exercise thing, right? How does that put me on the right track? And how does that make me actually productive? How? Okay, so it doesn't look like you've done the research. A graduate boot camp or a changed person. What do you mean by changed person? So you really want to define what you're saying here. Mold and perfect. Okay, so I like this concept of discipline, mold and perfect. These words go together really nicely. Create positive change. So you want to make sure that you're creating a font pattern, and this breaks your font pattern. You do want to include a picture that will support what you were saying, though. Now, again, careful about this. Doesn't quite look like teamwork, right? Because these guys they have their backs to each other. It almost looks like they're taking a test and she's administering the test. So what does teamwork look like? I like that you've got a story. This could be really good. Make sure you pick an image that tells more of your story. And then your big idea, this can be accomplished by attending a military-style boot camp. What can be accomplished? Okay, the final thing is make sure that you are citing your images on the slide. So, oops. So go ahead and put that in here. And it can look just kind of like this, right? So we've got this, that's fine. You can stretch it out. It's out of the way. I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to it, but when you put it in SlideShare, I'll still be able to click on it, right? Again, any images with text, they take away from your established font pattern, so be careful about that. So make sure you cite all your slides in the thing. All right, so let me know if you have questions, Latina. I've talked a little while. I may or may not have made sense, so let me know if you have questions, and I look forward to seeing how this grows. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.